All right, ready to go. So I know people are still coming in. I actually can't really see the activity, but I'm going to be focusing on the conversation and I'll try to glance as I can. But like I said, welcome everyone. My name is Jonette Cape. I am the founder of A Socialite Production, and you are joining in for the part 2 of the LIB Perspectives storytelling series. Tonight's conversation is the theme of Coming to America, the Liberian Story. Definitely so glad and excited for this conversation. Is one that I've really been waiting on for, I actually would say a few years, right? But waiting for somebody to do it. So I guess that somebody is me. So we are here and we are about to jump into it. Before I go a little bit further in talking about a socialite production and what we're going to discuss tonight, I want to start us off by a quick word of prayer. So if you can just bow your heads. Father God, I just thank you. I praise you. We love you. We adore you. Thank you for the platform of a socialite production. It was a vision that you gave me that you would not let go until I proceeded with, God. So I thank you for the partners. I thank you for the support. And I thank you for just the willingness to move forth in obedience. Now, be with the conversation tonight. Let everyone hear you over the speaker. Let everyone see you, what's being said and even not said. Let them hear whatever it is you want to reveal in their hearts and in their minds and perspectives. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Welcome to those that are still joining in. Storytellers, I don't call them panelists, I call them storytellers. If you want to go ahead and share, if you have not had a chance to do that, feel free while I'm still going through the intro. But real quick, socialite production. You know, some people are asking me, what is a socialite production? It's a company, it's a business, but a part of what we do is a platform for storytelling. That's many who know me, they know that I'm authentic and I like to share stories, right? To kind of paint the picture of who I am and why I do what I do. And so with launching the business, I felt why not start the storytelling with my community, the Liberian community / African community. The storytelling that's going on here is what I would encourage you guys to do in your own communities, whether it's African, whether it's American, faith, Hispanic, it's the same method, just different community, different culture, right? Our goal is to bridge the gap. Our goal is to make a connection. Our goal is to help us to start crossing over. You know, last week we had an awesome conversation about in the middle. So me, I'm a first generation American, but I'm also a Liberian. I was born and raised and lived in the culture all day, every day until it was time to go to school. But being in the middle, I see the opportunities on both sides. I see the disconnects on both sides. And so this is a continuation of that conversation from last week. If you missed it, you can check it out on the Facebook page. But this is a continuation now with Africans. And yeah, they're in the middle, but not so much. They're more of the African culture. And they're going to be speaking from that standpoint, more so from in the middle. One other part that I want to mention is as far as where you can find a socialite production. And of course, many of you are on the Facebook Live link. We also have a an Instagram page and Twitter page. The social media handle is the same on all, a socialite production. And we can also be reached via email at info@asocialiteproduction.com. And so if you have questions tonight, you know, unfortunately, this is not the webinar setup where you can be in the tool with us, but I have a couple of people monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. They will get it to me, or you can send an email and we will respond later. Or if it's a lot of questions, we may even have a part 2 conversation to cover those. And I think that's all of that's all of the housekeeping items. So now we're going to get to the fun part. We're going to introduce the panel. Well, I'm going to introduce the panel, but I'm going to lead it in like a mini interview, like a mini Q&A. Storytellers. Are you guys ready?
And
first of all, I just want to say they look really good. You know, last week, the 10 participants, they look good. And this week they said, y'all are not going to show us up. So we came through in our African attire. Yes, y'all look good. Thank you for accomplishing the assignment as assigned. So first we're going to start with Mr. John Kape. Are you ready, Mr. Kape?
Of course, I am. Thank you.
And for those who don't know me or my dad, he's my dad, right? But for the sake of the conversation, he's Mr. Kape. So, like I said, everyone here, well, I did not necessarily say, but everyone on this panel, they are from Liberia. And so I'm going to start off with the question, Mr. Kape, what part of Liberia were you born and raised in?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me on this program. Very, very happy to be on it to say what I need to say to share with a lot of people. However, I was born in Riverside, where there was Riverside, Grand Bassa County.
Okay. All right. And what is your native tribe in Liberia?
I'm Kru by tribe, Sando County. My daddy is Bassa and Kru. My mother is Bassa and Kru, but normally you go with the daddy's side of the story. So I'm Kru.
So you rep the Kru side, you don't rep the Bassa side.
Well, I represent the Bassa side some way or the other, but for identity sake, I am Kru by tribe.
Okay. And so this is kind of a two-part question. What year, or if you know the date, what date did you migrate to America? How old were you and where did you reside, or what was your path when you came to America?
Well, I came to America September 14, 1976. Just about a day before my R20 expired. So I live right here in Charlotte since
then. And how old were you?
I was about 26.
Okay. Okay. And the last question, which is one of my favorite, the Liberian culture, just like, the Black culture and other cultures, you have sayings and phrases. And so we call, Liberians speak English, but we refer to it as Liberian English, or it may be in your dialect. So whether it's in Liberian English or in your dialect, Daddy, in your Kru dialect or Bassa, what is your favorite phrase or saying and what does it mean?
Well, this one is a general saying that we refer to maybe as colloquial or whatever. Or say, for instance, I said it, I come into Congo. So it's almost like I'm getting ready to go or getting ready to leave, Where in the Kru, the favorite one would be Nwana or Dewa. That's a greeting. So that got to be favorite because that's something that you say practically all the time. You got to speak to your elders when you see them in the morning or in the afternoon and so on.
Got you. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm still a little salty because my dad never taught us the dialect, but that we'll save that for another day. But thank you, Mr. Kape. Next, we'll go to Miss Elaine Shastine. Hello, Miss Elaine.
Hello, Janet.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
You look very beautiful, very, very, very beautiful. So what part of Liberia were you born and raised?
So I was born in Claratown.
Okay. And what is your native tribe?
My native tribe is Kru. I'm Kru Italian, but I represent the Kru tribe.
All right. And so at what age and year did you migrate to the States and what city did you reside? Kind of talk about your track of where you came and where you are now.
All right. I came to the United States April of 1988. I resided in Brooklyn, New York in the projects. And I was age 17 when I came to the US.
Okay. And where do you live now?
Right now I reside in North Carolina.
Okay. Yeah, she's down south with us. We told her we New York. And so what is your favorite? I've heard you say a lot of sayings or phrases or even in your dialect. What is yours that you want to share and what is the meaning?
Well, since you limited me to one thing, since I represent Kru, I'm going to say na fuerwa. That means, how are you in Kru?
Na fuerwa.
Na fuerwa.
Okay.
Now,
I should have did a tutorial before this. Let me just English. Yeah, never mind. But thank you for that. Next, we'll go to Alex Sampan. Mr. Sampan, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Very welcome. So what part of Liberia were you born and raised?
I was born in one of the famous and well-known borough of the country. It's called New Town.
Oh, I've definitely heard of
Born
it.
and raised in Town.
Okay. And what is your native tribe?
Hey, we are dominant tonight. I'm crew, my crew, pa crew, all over crew.
Everybody crew. Okay. And at what age and year did you, come to America, and what city did you land and kind of your track up to?
I apologize. I came in August 10th, 2000. I landed in New York. I was in Staten Island for my first weekend, and I moved to Charlotte after that. That's where I stayed the bulk of my time. Yes, New York at the age of what, 21, 22 years old.
Okay.
New York, and then just New York, pretty much just a weekend. So I don't
Got
really,
you.
and then Charlotte.
Got you. What part of New York did you go? Did I miss that?
Yeah, Park Hill, actually.
Okay.
Staten Island.
Staten Island. Yep.
Yeah, I was there for about a week, just pretty much under a week, few days.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And last but not least, the beautiful Miss Sia Jones. How are you, Sia?
I'm doing great, Johnette.
Yes.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
No problem. No problem. My energy be so high, and Sia just be like, So, Miss Sia, what part of Liberia were you born and raised?
I was born in Looking Down, Broad Street to be specific.
Okay. And what is your native tribe?
I am of the Kisi tribe.
The Kisi tribe. So she's the, well, not really the loner here, but and real quick, I did not intentionally pick a whole bunch of crew people. It just kind of landed that way.
Right.
I'm not trying to be biased. It just happened that way. So at what year and age did you travel to America, and where did you land, and where did you reside now? Where do you reside? I'm sorry, I can't speak tonight.
So I was 12 when I migrated to the US, and I think everyone comes through New York. So originally I came through New York and stayed in Staten Island for about 2 weeks, and then migrated to Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay, all right. And now you are.
I am currently in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. And so, what is your favorite, Liberian English saying, or dialect English, whatever? What is your favorite saying, and what is the translation?
So my favorite will be a child who can hear, they will feel it, and I.
I heard that all the time.
Yeah, so basically it was from an older person telling a kid or someone younger, listen to me or else.
Yeah. Yep. Heard that a lot. Not that I was a, bad child. I listened, but, I just tend to hear that phrase a lot. So, but thank you guys. Thank you for the introduction. I really wish we can go, because I can feel a question coming about as far as, details and explanation of the tribe. We don't have time for that, but like I said, it may even be a part 2 where we go through various tribes, but thank you for that. And so now we're about to get into the meat of the conversation / storytelling. And one thing that I forgot to say at the beginning, we're here to tell our story, or they are here to tell their story. I may chime in here or there. It's not to lift ourselves up over anyone else. It's not to even, take away from anybody else's experience. It's just their story. And so whether you agree with it or not, it's just to for you to gain understanding, perspective, or even learn something, right? So just kind of approach it from that lens as we're going through, and even with your questions also. And so we're going to start with Miss Elaine. Well, she told me to call her Elaine. We're going to start with Elaine. And one of my favorite movies, silly movies, comedies, is Coming to America, right? I always thought it was a, kind of silly nonsense movie, but it was just so enjoyable, right? But I remember watching Coming to America too, and I was just like, can I make a movie with the real Coming to America experience? It can still be funny, it can still be comical, but let it really represent the culture and not this made up thing, And that's why sometimes there's a different perception of what America really is or not, and even Africa. And so as far as your perception, Elaine, starting with you, of coming to America, what was your outlook or your thoughts on where the country you were coming to versus when you landed and saw the reality of the land? Kind of talk through that.
Okay, so living with my parents in Bone Mines, when I used to watch all the movies from America, I couldn't wait to come to America. All you see is the high-rise buildings, beautiful streets, beautiful people. Seemed like they were very welcoming. So I could not wait to come and stay in the USA. Looking forward to that. It was just one of my goals that I really wanted to come overseas to be able to go to school and have a better life.
So did you have anything that like shocked you? Anything that was like, wait a minute? Because in the example I'm using, my mom, right? And to me, I'm kind of like, how did you think this? But it's just like what Americans may think about Africans or Africa. If you don't know, you don't know. But she literally thought that some of the streets had gold on it.
Yes.
No, I wish it did. So did you like think anything of that nature or?
Oh, I would think I would come to a clean streets, not so crowded. I wouldn't experience any prejudice, especially from our people.
Mm-hmm.
Subways were very crowded and they were really, they were just showing you the good side of America.
Yeah.
Just like they show like the bad side of Africa.
Exactly.
You've always seen the good side of America. So you would never think that you will come to America and have these kind of experiences. And it wasn't just bad experiences. I had positives and I had negative experiences as well.
Yes. Does anyone else want to chime in on their experience if it's something different?
Yeah, let me add a little bit in there. Coming here, I mean, all I could think about, there's chicken, you're eating all these nice food. But that first day I came, I remember I landed Saturday morning, and obviously straight to Staten Island, Park Hill, if you're familiar with that place. The building that I went to, actually, I went to a house, and then a friend took me into this building. As we're walking into the building, the African food scent was flying all over my nose. I was like, oh, well, now y'all can eat the kind of food here. So like walking into the building, it's a building, it's one of the famous buildings in Staten Island. It's called 55. It's the well-known address. So it's all filled with Liberians. So so walking in there, I'm just hearing people yelling from all over the place. And the food, you got chicken soup, you got this, you got, I was like, that day I called the next day, I was talking to my dad. I said, I don't know if I won't be here. So that's a little quick experience about it. Yeah.
And actually I want Sia, if she don't mind, to touch on hers, because I know you were living in Minnesota. Coming from Liberia, Africa to that place, talk about that experience.
So leaving Liberia, as we are aware, is the temperature. That was my first shock. So Liberia is humid, it's hot. Then coming to Minneapolis in the winter. So it was a culture shock for me. I did adjust, but I did not think about that aspect of America, because most Africans imagine America as being heaven back then, right? Green pastures, people came for a better lifestyle. So we did not realize, looking from outside in, we did not realize the amount of work people put in. People will call you from back home, hey, send me this, do this for me. But people are actually putting in hours and hours of work, 3 shifts going to work, right? So, I mean, coming in, I didn't realize the differences, but with differences, we also have a lot of similarities.
Yes, absolutely. And so we're going to go on to the next question. I was born and raised in Charlotte. I have not lived in any other city. I've gone to a lot of other cities and even countries, but I've always resided here. And I always will think about I recall when I had to go to a new school, I felt so uncomfortable. I felt like, are they going to like me? Had all these feelings. I cannot imagine what it is to leave your home country, leave your parents, leave everyone, and come to a whole nother place, a strange land, right? But when you come, it's like you want to be received and kind of like mentored and chauffeured around. That's not necessarily everyone's experience, right? So some people come to just by themselves, no support. And so I'm going to start off with this question with Mr. Capet. I was about to say my dad, Mr. Capet. When you traveled to America, how were you received? Just overall, whichever part you want to touch on.
Well, everybody has some kind of experience, so with that question. But as for me, I believe I will receive very well for the beginning. I mean, things went well. Some people were happy to see me or talk with me. But in fact, most of the people that I met before were happy to talk to me because of the way I spoke. I guess it was my accent or enunciation or whatever the situation was. But then again, some people that are not as knowledgeable of African or whatever, they will come with those kind of questions. One, it was like, because I came to America, I traveled on the plane with a jean suit, which I made to come. So the little time I wore the same suit to go visit with my friend somewhere. And so the lady saw me. She said, "Did you get that suit when you got down from the plane at the airport?" I said, "No, I made this suit to wear to come to America." So I said, "We wear clothes. We don't go naked. We don't sleep in the trees and all of those things. I mean, other question was, how you allowed Tarzan to beat all of you around there? I said, as a matter of fact, Tarzan is not real. And that movie was not made here was not made in Africa. It was made here in America.
Yeah.
So maybe right there in California or somewhere. And secondly, well, the other question was, animals run around in the place. I said, no, I never even seen those kind of animals until maybe when I came here, I would see them, parading the animals for a circle.
Now let me ask real quick, Mr. Cape, were they asking, some people ask ignorant questions intentionally just to be mean and pick, right? And then others ask ignorant questions because they just don't know. I'm assuming it was a mix, or was it like because with asking how you were received, people are going to have questions, but I guess more so, how were you treated, right?
I think I was treated well. I'll put it that way. I was treated well. But then later on, the things that happened, unexpectedly,
Mhm.
and you can't control those things.
Gotcha.
But I was well received in the school and so on. But there were a few things and so on that sometimes they say, "Oh, you can't speak English," blah blah. Speak English. So in fact, with that incident, it happened with me in my communication class at Central Piedmont. So every time the teacher asks a question, nobody can answer, and I would put my hand up and answer the question. I mean, I guess it was so annoying that this fellow, he just got up and said, "Sit down, you can't even speak English." So then the teacher said to him, well, she said to me, she said, don't say anything. I will defend you. I said, well, okay. So if you want to see his grades, come on up. I will show them to you. And secondly, he speaks better English, proper English than you guys do. He speaks with grammar. He speaks proper grammar and whatnot. So
Yeah.
that was a good incident, but it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
So when the question was posed to them after, she said I shouldn't say anything. They couldn't answer it.
Yeah, I bet that was a good feeling to have the professor speak up on your behalf, because sometimes kids can be mean and you don't really have anyone to have your back. You just have to sit there and take it or defend yourself. So that definitely is a good example of being well received. Does anyone else have any examples or anything to add to that question?
I would like to add, John. Living in Brooklyn in the project, it really was not easy for me and my cousins. The neighbors' kids, they would throw firecrackers at our doors. When we come out, they would start running out. It was really, really bad. Like they would tell you, go back to Africa, you don't belong here. And the happy place for me was high school, because I had two teachers that were like a mentor to me, that mentored me through high school. I was a swimmer. I learned how to swim, and I was on the swimming team. So those people embraced me. So going to school was like a really happy place for me. So I put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah.
But some of the kids were really cruel, and it's so hard to make friends when you come first, because you have your accent, it's who you are. You're not going to change because that's how you spoke. So you're just going to speak that way no matter what it is. But there were some mean kids, but going to school and having those teachers mentoring me and having the swimming teachers, being on the team and having a team to surround themselves with me, that was my motivation, going to school and doing what I needed to do in school. But it was really cruel for some of us. Some people are just lucky that they came to the US with a community that already had the Liberians where they were able to put their arms around them.
Yeah.
But some of us who came early on,
Yeah.
it's really, really hard for us. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it, but it was negative and positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, I from the stories and experiences, a lot, no matter when you arrive to the country, there was always challenges and mean-spirited people. But that first wave, because we are products of the first wave with our parents. So we've seen a lot, and, I'm not going to go there, but then we also had a set of Americans that welcomed us and that embraced us. And I would start calling names, but not even going to go there. So it was a mix, but I can probably say it was more of a challenging experience than the positive at the beginning. See, I want you to touch on yours because you have an interesting perspective and what you experienced in Minnesota versus down south in Charlotte. Can you kind of talk through that?
Yes. So growing up in Minnesota, straight from Liberia, was an interesting experience. Predominantly, Minnesota is white. There's a huge Liberian community. So the school that I went to, it was either Black or white. So the white kids hung out together, Black kids or Africans were together. So I did not experience anything negative because I geared towards the African kids. So it felt like I was home then. Then we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I was so excited. The weather is great. There's a lot of Black people here. I felt at home, right? Then I started going to school. First day at school, introduced myself. The teacher introduced me actually. This is Sia. She's from Minneapolis. Did not mention Liberia. So everybody looked at me. Okay, she may be American until I started to speak, and all of that went left. Like I was laughed as soon as I started reading. I was laughed at. People were asking like, "Do you guys? Did you live in a hut or?" Have you seen a lion before? And I was like, I lived in Liberia, never saw a lion until I came here and went to the zoo, right? And at that point, it was an interesting experience, but I did not realize that the burden was also on me, right? To change that narrative, to show people that, hey, we speak English, we are pretty much the same based on color. Right. Now I realize that the burden is also on us because then people were ignorant because of what they saw of Africa on TV. The media did not represent Africa in a positive way. So as much as it saddened me then because it felt like, oh, we are Black, we're all the same. It saddened me then, but now I know that I couldn't blame folks, right? Because Africa as a continent wasn't shown to be a beautiful place, and it really is.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're going to move on. And Alex, you're going to actually get this next question. And if you want to touch on what we just talked about before, you can kind of merge the two. But I've heard, like, again, I'm in the middle. So I hear the perception, the perspective on the American side, of course, the African side, and I see. So I'm able to speak and defend and explain, right? But there's a lot of Americans that kind of have the perception that Africans don't like Americans, or they think Americans are lazy. Can you kind of talk about that from a real standpoint of just a variety of thoughts in the African culture as it relates to that mindset?
Absolutely. Like you said, it's a mixed variety of thoughts in that direction because I think the perception of most Americans, obviously, we don't speak of all because there are a lot of great people. The perception is most when you come over, you're not expected to excel, especially beyond an actual American. You're expected to be at a certain level. You work, but you have a boundary, you have a limit. So I think when we see ourselves pushing beyond those boundaries, when we see ourselves excelling, other Americans who are lacking the thought of it's an equal world, everybody can excel. They have those different negative thoughts towards us. And because of that, most of us Africans do respond or react in a way that they will feel that we don't like them. But it's just a matter of the fact that we are trying to not have boundaries for ourselves. We are trying to not set a line for ourselves, because again, a lot of times when we're doing things, or when you meet an African, an American, basically American, you feel like you Africans don't like us. I kind of think, I'm like, okay, no, I think it's the reverse. Maybe you don't like me because of where I'm coming from. Why would you think I don't like you? In my mind, you have everything. Okay. I'm coming to get a piece of what you have. So why would it not like you? It's the opposite. I feel you think I'm trying to steal some of your glory. I'm trying to steal some of your wealth. So why will I not like you? So when I get that thought or that conversation, I try to put out, say, no, I think it's reverse. I think they don't like that. But let's stick to the point where you say they think we don't like them. I again, to be short, I feel it's because we are not expected to excel at a certain level. And when we start to get to this level, we ourselves too, we try to pump up our shoulders. We try to measure. We try to let them know, okay, this is equal, the equal playing field. And then that part comes of like, you can't talk to me the way you think you should be talking to me. And then they feel they don't like us, or I feel we don't like them.
Yeah.
Well, it's on both sides.
Right.
Yeah, it's on both sides. So even with the Africans or the Liberians that you meet here, it will happen the same way. So they will look at you differently. I mean, either the way you dress or the crowd you meet, that you associate with, they will tend to keep away from you. That's what you said. Maybe the thing that you want, some of the things that they have or that they acquired, or you cause some problem for them. But it's both sides. It's on the side of the African or the Liberians, and it's also on the side of the Americans. So, and then it's on the side of the Liberians and the Liberians, because that happens. So that's where you have the clique. So when the clique is there, they associate with one another. So the other group, they don't like the other group because I guess it's different. So like I grew up in Old Crew Town, okay, my early years. So people that I know from Old Crew Town and I come here to meet and I meet them here, I associate more with them and tend to trust them than the other people that I didn't know then. But it's always good to establish friendship and make it much easier and smoother for you guys to interact. It's both sides.
Elaine, Sia, do y'all have anything different to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I don't think it's so much of Africans not liking Americans. I think the gap we have, like the show is called, we have to bridge the gap, right? To truly know someone, you have to know their history. And in growing up in Liberia, I wasn't taught the American history, the Black American history, right? To know that slaves went through what they went through. People fought so hard for us to gain our freedom, right? And African Americans did not get to learn.
Our internet.
Yeah, she stalled real quick.
The weather is bad. I was having that problem earlier.
Okay. Sia, we can't hear you. So if you come back in, well, I'll let you finish. I wanted to see, Elaine, did you have something to add?
I think it's lazy on every culture. It's not so much about Black American, Africans. Every race have lazy people. On Liberians or African in general, we come here because we want to make a better life for ourselves.
Yeah.
So we work hard. We try to move up. We try to take care of our family. And a lot of times when they see someone like you who's very strong and want to move up the ladder, they try to bring you down and say that you don't like them, just to sort of reverse on you. But we're just hardworking people, and sometimes a lot of them don't like that. And I make sure they know that I'm from Africa, and I make sure I speak with that accent, because we work hard and we know what we want. So every race, every nationality have lazy people.
And that's a fact, right? But
Right.
yeah.
I'm so sorry,
No,
guys.
that's
My
okay.
Wi-Fi, I have the.
It is okay. Look,
Um,
it's technology. We have no control. You were going somewhere there with the. Well, I'm sorry, Elaine. Were you finished with your thought? I'm sorry about
Okay,
that.
go ahead. It's fine.
Okay. But you know, one thing about Elaine is funny because I saw the. Sometimes I call her. She's my cousin. I'll call her cousin Pepper. And when you say pepper, that means they have some spice. She's sweet as can be. But she'll start talking fast. That crew will come out.
That crew woman.
That crew woman. It was coming out. I love it. I'm sorry, Sia. You can finish your thought.
Okay, yeah, pretty much what I was saying.
Oh, go ahead.
Right, we have to learn each other's background because at the end of the day, Africans, Black Africans, and Africans from Africa, we are one, and the power we have if we were to come together is unimaginable. So many things are thrown at us to widen that gap, and it's on me as an African to get with my Black American brother to teach them my history versus and vice versa, because those things were not taught in schools. And if I was to call
You're on mute, Sia. I'm sorry. I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah. I don't know what's going. It's not you. It's technology. I know you.
Oh God, I'm so
sorry. That means somebody want you to say what you have to say. Go ahead and finish.
Yeah, but we have to educate each other. We have to educate each other because at the end of the day, if we were to come together, we can do unimaginable things. So when Black Americans are looking, saying, hey, they think we're lazy because free slaves fought for so many things that we are benefiting from now, right? And then looking at an African coming in and excelling, right? And while an African American may be here and just looking like they may feel like we fought for that, and now you guys are coming here too, which is not the case, and that is only going to change if we educate each other.
Yeah, and that's. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone has something.
Yeah, we both have to be willing to learn.
Yes.
We have to all be open-minded and be willing to learn about each other for us to move forward.
That's true, because I was saying that you have to learn a person's culture. Once you get to know that person's culture, you will understand them, as well as they learning your culture and understanding you. Just like you said also that we got to educate them. I think that's one of the way I went through being here in America, by trying to teach people what they're missing or what they don't understand, because when they ask those questions, I try to tell them what it is, or the situation, how it's different from here and there. So they get to listen. And once they listen, they always want to come and listen to certain things, that I have to say, and then they ask other questions. Then they come into the real question, not the not the other way around, But again, we also have to have patience with one another. So if a person come to you and they say something, it's kind of annoying. And when it is that, you just go straight at them without trying to help them understand what is happening.
Yeah.
I think they don't know. They don't know. So if you go in that teaching mood with them from the beginning, they will feel the pressure that they want to put on the other person.
And I'm going to make a quick point just to bring a bridge, right? Because I said we're talking about our culture, but this translates to other cultures. And so it reminds me of the conversation with, the race issue, race relations with whites and blacks. Sometimes white people can say some really ignorant, even maybe kind of dumb stuff, right? And I would say the same for Black Americans who are not familiar with the African culture, but they truly don't know. But if they're asking a question like of the Black culture or of the African culture, you're like, well, how can they not know? There's no way they don't want to know. They just want to be ignorant. And sometimes that is people's mindsets. But just looking at from my culture, my standpoint, where I sit in the middle and see both sides, I have empathy. Because although what you're saying sounded very silly, you truly did not know. And so what Mr. Cape is saying is so true. Patience and willingness to not educate, because it's not our job to educate anyone, right? There's too much out here at our leisure to learn, but be willing to talk. The reason why Americans think Africans don't like them and vice versa is because you're not talking.
Right.
Talk, mingle, and so that's one of the goals for a socialite to promote. And I want to create an environment where it's like we're sitting in my living room. These are conversations we have, amongst ourselves. Why not? Let's open it up for the world. Why not?
30
So, go ahead, Al.
Quick 30 seconds towards that. Let me and see. I was talking about education. That question we're discussing now, I feel that impact more on what I call internal crisis between is other Africans think Liberians are different.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Other Africans see the thing we're too Americanized, the thing we're too we don't do things more traditional or culturally. Okay. So that's what the education part comes about. And I've had this interaction or this discussion with three of my other African brothers. I say, we think we're too Americanized, or we came here and try to be all American. But hey, this is my history. Mm-hmm. This is my country was more like a page out of the book, okay, of the United States. The flag, the national item, our capital Monrovia, names after James Monroe. The way we were brought up, it's everything was copied. So growing up and coming, it's easily for us to adapt. I mean, us Liberians to easily adapt than other Africans. So it's not that we like to be, we're Americanized, or like most Africans do say that. It's, oh, you're Liberians, you like to feel different. But that's where the education part comes in, because they don't know our connection, our historical connection with the US, or how we were brought up in our country, things we studied. We studied books from here instead of books from other places.
Yeah. These are all great points. Elaine, did you have something to add?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So I want to get through all of these questions if we can, but I just love the discussion that's being had. This one here, we're going to try to keep it short, right? We're going to try, and this may bleed into the additional questions. So, but one thing about, well, let me not. I'm about to answer the question. I'm supposed to be asking the question. It's not about you, Janet. Okay. So, in reference to our culture, the Liberian culture, the African culture, but specifically Liberian culture, right? If you can, what is one thing that you love, like just love about the culture? There's a lot of things we can say that we don't love about the culture, right? But we're gonna keep this positive. We ain't got to tell the world that. But
we'll
talk about that thing.
We'll let the ladies do that.
We'll do that part too. We ain't got to do that now. But no, talk about a couple of things that you love about the Liberian culture. And we will start with Elaine and kind of just go work the room.
All right. So I'm going to say our upbringing, especially when it pertains to elderly, someone who's older than you. We never call someone who's older than us by their first name. It's always Mr., Mistress, sister, cousin Jeanette. We refer to them with a handle on their names. I really love that about our culture, because it's about respect. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't know they had that here. So I moved to North Carolina, and I heard people calling me Miss Elaine. And I love that because it's a respect thing. Mm-hmm. And I love that about my culture. I love the food. Oh my God, I love the food. Oh, the palm butter and the cassava leaf. Favorite. I love those two food, and I look forward when I come to Charlotte. I have my bowls ready and my fill that thing up, and I just come back home. I have food for 2 months, but those are the two things that really stand out when it comes to my culture.
Awesome. Thea, what about you?
Pertaining to Liberians, what I love is our will to overcome adversity. If you do not, we all know about our history, but if anyone's watching who doesn't know the history of Liberia, we went through over a decade of civil war. So many kids saw people being killed, communities, families being killed. But Liberia went through all of that, right? And versus other African countries, because at a time, Liberia was at its peak, the first country in Africa to gain its independence. However, all of that was destroyed. So just imagine a group of people going through so much and being able to, for example, me, a child moved from Liberia at 12, being able to come here and excel in another country, a strange land. I love that about Liberians. We could be having our worst days, but when you see a Liberian person outside, right, we can have $1 or $5 in our account, but when you see us out, always a smile on our face. That's such an amazing thing.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I was about to jump in again, Janet. Be quiet. Alex, I'm gonna go to you, but especially when she talked about overcomer. Every time I hear that, I think about you, Alex. So just kind of talk about that and add that into your thoughts on the things that you love about the culture.
First thing about the culture, I like my music.
Of course.
Got the music king here, Mr. Carpenter himself. He knows more about that. But like Sierra said, we I think it's about our upbringing when we talk about overcoming adversities. You know, we don't easily give up on something because we see our parents, we live through our parents, we see what they've overcome, we see what they've done throughout their lives to take care of not 1, 2, 3 kids, but 4, 5, 6, 7 children, you know. So some of us modeled after that. We and then coming through war, you know, you experience the war, you see people lost their lives, lost properties, and you see them wake up to do things, you know. But personally, I build my strength more on my faith. I build my strength more on my faith and my spirit, because I've had some moments in my life where sometimes I feel there's no point of being alive anymore. But you know, but when you have a background, where you're strong, your faith is strong, and also being Africa, that word Africa means strong. You can't be African being lazy. You know, you can't be African and be, that word suicide connects to you. It can't. It's not supposed to be. So for, you know, the African culture, when I hear, I think about adversity. I think about strength, overcoming things, not giving up, and those are things where I feel that Africans are strong in. African pride themselves in.
Love it, love it. Mr. Kape, how about you?
What I love about Liberians is that they are very friendly, free-handed, always willing to help, and like to spread a table, you know, when there's something. Invite people over. They want to always be with somebody. So the food also is very great. For me, yeah, the Liberian food is great because I learned from an early age cooking.
Yeah.
So I can practically cook any African dish as well as a lady would. Okay. I'm saying that because it was a little problem in my house to say this. My wife used to drive me out of the kitchen, you know, when I say something. But anyway, those are the food, especially, that's part of what is breaking, is bridging the gap right now in America with Africans or Liberians and Americans. So most of the African restaurant that is the African restaurant is mostly occupied, they are supported by Americans.
Americans, right.
Who knew about potato grains then? Even when I came, there was no potato grain per se because we couldn't find it. So we used spinach as potato grain. So now with the cassava leaf, potato grains, tobaji, okra sauce, and so on, the Americans eat all of those things there. Potato greens is number one, but that's the most stuff. So the thing about it, I'm saying about the food, when I used to take my food to work and I'm warming it, the person would say, what's that smelling? You know, it smells. I said, well, you want to try? They wanted that, but they'd be embarrassed or what. So I said, come, let's try. Bring a plate or a bowl, take some out of it. Oh, it's nice. You know what happened the next time? They can't sit by me. I would share it, but when I saw that it's getting that way, I start going to other areas to eat my food. But yeah, the food is great. So the same way with the jollof rice. Now you find out I think it's mainly Nigeria and Liberia, the Nigerian thing, they make the most best
Mm-mm.
jollof rice than
Make you
Liberians.
think,
You know,
make you think.
everybody food is to that nature. So ain't nothing much. But the thing about it, we Liberians, we are caring. Most of us are caring, and that's a helpful thing. That's what
You
I
know,
like.
I have to add real quick before I go to the next question. You know, in relation to what Mr. Kape said about Liberians being caring and their help. Now, you know, when if there's beef or whatever going on, there's beef going on. But when it's time to come together as a community,
They do.
everything is put aside and we come together. And so when I think about the type of service, like the servant leader that I am, I originally learned that from my community. The Liberian community, the community family unit, the culture is one of the big things that I love because that support. You know, I recall when my mom had back surgery years ago, and oh Lord, I am not about to do an ugly cry. Nope, hold on, give me a second. Okay, it's going. I felt it coming in my throat. No, but just, specifically, Sister Aretha and Auntie Abba, they are not limited to just those two, but I will never forget this, and I tell Sister Aretha about this all the time. They didn't even ask. We didn't even know they were coming. They came, and I was a child. They came with a bunch of meat, food, cooked food enough for probably a month. And, there's so many other instances like that, or like when my sister got married, the community catered. All the aunties came together and we're just some people of service and of giving. And that is just something that is so valuable because you assume it's like that everywhere, and it's not. It's not. So I don't know if anyone else have anything to add on this, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I mean, just like what you're saying, that's why number one, I don't like to have parties and just send out invitation here. So the first time my 50th birthday was celebrated, my family wanted to do a surprise thing. And then because of that, a lot of people were left out. So the next time I told them, I said, nothing surprise. So let's leave it open. So with my 60th birthday, we left it open. And what I'm saying here, the food came in. The only thing I spent was to pay for the hall.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we got about 50 or 60 cases of beer. What she's saying. I mean, they are caring, willing to help.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, too, sometimes we got to reach out to people, let them know what is happening. Don't assume that they know. So
Yeah.
we let them know. What we did, we control it by saying no jeans, no certain kids and whatever. That was well controlled. And it
Yeah.
was nice. But our people, the community, I would say I grew up in this community. I've been here about 44, 45 years. And what she's saying, what you all say is so true in this community. We take out of people.
But we have a couple more questions to go through. And I meant to say, you guys, we're going to go through this conversation is 90 minutes, but we're going to take another probably 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. So just a FYI. But since Mr. Kape, you were talking, I want to talk about the music. So you talk about something that unites the cultures together, and that's music, right? You find that common thing that everyone loves. Everyone loves music, but it's just about getting to know music that's different from what they're used to. And so for African music, for those who don't know, my dad, he was a DJ since we were little. Throughout the years, he was known as the #1 DJ in Charlotte in the Liberian community. And so even now to this day, mostly the majority of music I listen to is African, even gospel, but I listen to a variety. But now the African music has evolved, right? And kind of changed. And just like music, that's what happens with music. But we went from having the African music, the high life, the soukous, and now it's Afro beats. And not the Afro beat, because there's an Afro beat that was originated, I think, in Ghana or Nigeria years ago, but the Afro beats is different. It's a little bit more commercialized. So as a DJ, and your love for African music, how do you feel, and this question is for everyone, but how do you feel about how the music has evolved, right? And do you think the richness of the true African music is gone?
Well, first of all, don't allow it. Don't let the people start calling me to come play for the party.
No, you're not
I'll stay having that anyway. But the music has changed, and we should expect that. Because when I was home, we used to listen to the high life, mainly kind of music from East Africa and so on. In Liberia, it was all R&B and whatnot. Of course, I had certain albums I used to carry with me that people love to listen to. But the music has changed. Now you have the Afro beat. I mean, I love it. Okay, it's good, but it's not like the authentic African music.
Mhm.
You know, you hear this. I mean, the real African music, the people use the guitar. They control the instruments because they play by ear. They're not using a sheet music to go with what they doing. But the African music is mainly from Nigeria, the main thing. So they call it the Afro beat, and they use the instrument to make different beats to give you a good sound and whatnot.
Yeah.
So the African music, the drums, the horns, the rhythm guitar, all of those things make the difference in the music.
Gotcha.
In Charlotte here, like you said, well, yeah, I was the number one DJ because I was practically the only DJ
At the
among
time.
the African community. So I used to do it back home. When I came here, it was just the same thing.
Yeah.
When I'm playing music, we Liberian, we grew up in the R&B, old school
Mm-hmm.
music. You know, the African music we didn't like it because I left from here, went home, took a good African tip there to play. You guys, the people say, man, take the thing from here, man. We don't want it. We wanted the R&B. But the music bridge the gap. You
Mm-hmm.
know, our people sometimes we don't like it, but that's the essence of the whole party. Okay, I'm playing. They say, "Oh, you play too many African music," but the African music get the place crowded.
Yeah.
Place is choke up. So you put a R&B is fine too. American music is fine, but it makes the area boring. Most people sitting down, they're waiting for that right kind of song to come on. As soon
Mm-hmm.
as you put that song on, you see people throwing chairs just to find their way on the floor
Yeah.
or to find
Yeah.
a lady, you know. Yeah, but African music is I know what I grew up with. So
Yeah.
up to now, I leave it with the younger guys now.
Yeah. Mr. Kape used to blast us out of our sleep on a regular with African music. So we were going to either hate it or love it, but thankfully we love it. But you said something real key, Mr. Kape, in reference to bridging the gap. You know, I think we have to start from a place where there's similarities with how we live. And so music, majority of people love music, right? So you can start there. We were talking about food. Food is another thing. I just want Alex to touch on real quick. He used to have his, when he was down here in Charlotte, his entertainment company where he'll have, like, I think it was 2 or 3 signature parties every year that was well attended. Now, granted, it was mostly Africans there from different countries, not just Liberians, but there was also a good handful of Americans there. And we would then bring our American friends. And I remember one party we went to, the American guy, he was on the floor more than anybody else. It was time to go. He was just dancing. Granted, he was drinking a little bit, but he liked the music. So just talk about that atmosphere you created in whether you was intentionally trying to do it or not, how you bridged the gap through fun and entertainment.
I think it goes back to the DJ of the party. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A DJ has to see who his audience is.
Yes.
Okay?
Exactly.
You got to see who your audience is, because if you walked into a party or DJ, you're up there. Okay. First of all, DJ, you're supposed to know people. If you don't know people, you can't be a DJ. When I came to Charlotte from the beginning, there was 2 DJs. There was Mr. Copper and there was this Ghana guy, Flapper. Everybody knew them and they knew everybody. So if a DJ is playing and he sees the crowd, he has to be able to mix the music. He has to be able to bridge the gap with the attendees of the parties. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
You can have a party of Americans and Africans, and you all night you just go flow with African music. Okay, that's why now even at the American clubs, because they're seeing the influx of Africans at their clubs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain part of the night, certain part of the club, you will hear at least 4, 5, 6 African songs. Even if it's the famous one that everybody knows, Droba, Joanna, all these songs, they will play it Because what they're doing, they're bridging that gap of the other people who are there and the regular people that they're familiar with. So it boils down to the DJ being able to mix the song, get everybody involved. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a great example. We'll have make it.
Just to say a real thing, I mean, quick thing. Yeah, ABY was the other DJ.
Oh
in the
yeah,
area.
Mr. White.
Yeah.
ABY, yeah.
It was.
So we were the two other DJs before the other DJs started coming. Me and
Yeah.
AB always play together,
Yeah.
and we coordinate, you know.
Yeah, he had to add that correction. He didn't want no problems.
Yeah.
No
No.
problem.
I mean, it won't be any problem, but AB,
I'm teasing. But we have to move on to the
ABY.
next question. We have a few more to get through, but we're doing good on time, so not too bad. Oh, Alex, here's another one for you to start, and of course, any one of you can touch on it. What advice would you give someone who's deciding to relocate to America? Right? We were talking about like the OGs. I always say the OGs of Charlotte or of New York, like the original Liberians that migrated, that had to kind of figure it out for themselves. But then as more come, you have a cushion, you have support. But for those who are coming now that you're here and settled, what advice would you give them?
One simple advice I would give people who are coming is something that a lot of us or most people lacked when they came to the United States, is having a mentor. That mentorship is key because it prepares you for a lot of things you don't know. Because when you come from back home, or you were doing good back home, okay, or you're not doing good, you come to the United States, you feel you're good, I'm smart, or I can work, or I came with money, I can do this, I can do that. You feel you're good. But then you need that mentorship to guide you, because there are a lot of things that people back then, people who came 15, 20 years ago, they're not planning for, they're not thinking about. Simple example is credit. People didn't know the importance of credit, what credit I'm sorry, what the word is, what impact credit will have on our lives 15, 20 years down the line. What are thinking about buying a home, thinking about buying a car, thinking about starting a business, trying to get a loan. Okay. If you come here, you have a true mentor, he'll be able to guide you to financially plan your life, to be able to be more financial savvy. Yeah. So there are tons of advices you can give people. Be yourself, like some of the ladies will charm on. Be yourself, but don't follow people. But more importantly, have that mentorship, because with that mentor, it will guide all the processes.
Definitely. Sia, you have anything to add? Okay.
Yeah, to add to what Alex ended with, not to be yourself. You do not have to conform. You can conform to the society in a way, but do not change your true self, your authentic self. Because coming from a country in Africa, or say Liberia, it's easy to get lost in the sauce. It's so much freedom, so much access to things that we did not previously have access to living back home. So it's easy to get lost. Be your authentic self. If you feel like you have to change so people can accept you, then there's a problem. Be yourself, and then everybody else.
Yeah. Elaine, you have something?
Yeah, I will also say be true to yourself, and always remember, do not get lost in the midst of the culture shock. And make sure you're following the right people who's going to lead you in the right path.
Yeah.
Well, I will also include that I think I had a good mentor, especially a friend of mine, Edwin Brown. Just before I came, we were talking on the phone before I came to America. One of the first things he told me, he said, "John, this place is not an easy place. You got to work hard, very hard to make it through." Those words stuck in my head, and I guess I'm still following that today. Because he told me, I live with him, he and his wife, told me, save your money, because the time will come, you will need a car, you will need your own apartment. And I lived with him for about a year, he and his wife. And I was able to save enough to get my first car, a Mustang 2, and then moved into my apartment. And the other thing about it, that fellow picked me up from school every day for a year and took me to work. I was never late for work, and he never complained. So that part, you know, and then I met him he was married to an American lady. They had a little child. And I think they put that child, the woman put a child on the floor for me to sleep in that room, in the child's room. I mean, to this day, I don't know if I can remember anybody that would do that for an African husband or so, African husband relative. But I was just a friend. But in fact, he and I grew up from early years, elementary school through all. It was the same way. He always picked me. He had a car. He always picked me up for church, mostly every Sunday.
Yeah.
And the guys that I met here, they all taught me to do certain things and what to do and how to do it, because they were Tom Davis, Jackson Davis, Edwin
You
Dean.
call names.
Yeah, I gotta call names. All those people really,
Yeah.
really helped me.
Yeah.
They helped me. I mean, I gotta call names.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's definitely that's all of this is good. But having a mentorship is key, or someone to talk to is key, and then being yourself is key. Those are the main two things. I want to move on as it relates to how the African culture is represented in with the American culture, right? And so when you have movies like Coming to America, which one of my movies I love, Black Panther, love that movie too. Of course, everybody Wakanda forever, blah blah blah. I love it, but then on the other hand, it's kind of like, because people are jumping on to parts of the culture that they think is the culture that is not the culture, and it's like, let's have conversations with people who are actually of the culture, just to make sure you understand it correctly. Can you now try to really understand, as you do your ancestry and things of that nature? That's great. And it's not taken away from you wanting to know where you come from. But now that you know, let's represent it right. Let's learn about it. Let's see how you can interact and engage with Africans so that it can be just represented right, right? So how do you guys feel about how our culture is represented and the opportunities to be able to cross over to collaborate? Kind of talk about that. And that question is starting with Sia.
Okay. So movies like Coming to America, right? Compared to a movie like Black Panther, both movies were made in different eras, right? So Coming to America, top 5 favorite movie of mine. However, the depiction of Africa was flawed. And when I say flawed, we did not grow up with animals. When I say animals, lions, tigers, and bears. In the beginning of Coming to America, it's right there, right? And people, ignorance, folks, because it's impossible for you to know about Africa and think that was factual. So people saw, although it was a beautiful movie, some folks took that picture that it painted as a reality of Africa versus versus Black Panther, right? Black Panther, although it was fictional, it showed royalty. It showed so many positive things about Africa till this day that it actually started a conversation for some to move back home in Africa. Started a conversation for people to visit, for people to be proud of wearing dashiki. Because years ago, if you wore dashiki, you was an African booty scratcher, right? So now people are proudly embracing that part of themselves. Because if you're a Black, you're 9 out of 10, you're African. Africa is the motherland, right? So both movies positive, but I think it painted a different picture. And I'm glad Black Panther came out to kind of open people's mind about the content.
And just for the record, just in case anyone's watching, I'm not coming for those movies. I love it. It was just the basis for the conversation. So don't think I'm coming for the movie. But anybody else have anything to add to that?
Yeah, again, coming to America is almost like what we're saying here. I guess it's for the fun or whatnot. But if you ask the real people coming to America, the story and whatever, you will get a better story. You will depict the continent or the country that that people coming from to come over here. But the story is not told right, you know. When they were for fun and so on. I didn't like the storyline. That's all I can say.
And I don't deep into the movie, and I feel you, Daddy. But excuse me, Mr. Copper. But it's more so. It was just more so of an example, right? When people see something represented on TV for Africa, then they take it and run with it. Exactly. Coming to America, some people know that clearly it's false, but then there's people that actually don't think it is, right? So again, it's about crossing over and talking. What I would love to see personally is just more of a collaboration. And so, you know, let's just talk about church. The African choirs, I mean, just like the gospel choirs, both turn up in the best way possible, but it's different. So if you're going to have an African Sunday at church, why not collaborate with an African choir? You know, so that's kind of my point in the representation of the culture. It's like, for me, if ever I want to, you know, let's say if I'm writing a paper on something, I'm going to go to someone who's familiar with that topic to make sure I'm accurately representing whatever it is that the subject is, versus just putting my own spin to it and misrepresenting it. So that's kind of, I wanted to make sure that the question didn't get too far, like deep into these movies. The movies were just an example, but overall, just how the culture is represented and the opportunities to cross over, right? So I don't know if anyone has anything else to add before we go to the next question.
Yeah, something real quick. With that, you know, when it comes to the movies, let me just go to Black Panther. And sometimes I feel we Africans, we play double standard with ourselves. Okay, what I mean by that is this. When an American talking about Africa, they're talking about all the animals and the lions, the hearts and all these things, we feel offended. But when they're talking about Wakanda, some Africans feel proud of it, but you know it's not real. Okay, you know it's not real, but you're feeling proud of it because it shows beauty. It shows all these sophisticated things. It shows technologies, but you're not bold enough to sit with the American and tell them, oh, the true details are, you know, this is fictional. And well, some people do know, but the same way we are able to be quick to erase the fact that Africa is not what you see on TV, we should also be quick to erase the fact about the other TV, which is the movie. So we shouldn't try to not accept one and then try to play the other down and try to accept it.
You're absolutely right. And quite honestly, I did feel pride, but then I started to feel a little indifferent, because it's like, this is a fake country and now everybody, you know, is, oh, Africa. But there's other African countries that we've been talking about for years and showcasing that no one took pride to, but now there's a fake country. So for me, I see what you're saying. I had a mix of both feelings, but at the end of the day, like Sia said, I'm actually glad that it came out, because it started a new wave of people wanting to discover who they are, people wanting to bridge the gap and cross over. So this is a living room conversation. I have to be honest with how I feel, but at the same time, see the positive out of it, and it's giving opportunities like this, right, for us to have conversations and want to educate and collaborate more. So, but we only have time for one more question, and we may not even get through all of the various levels of this question, but it's the topic of code switching. And so for those who may not be familiar with the term, there's various definitions about code switching, but for the sake of this conversation, it's broadly defined as adjusting like your style of speech or appearance or behavior, expressions, customs, whatever, to fit into a certain environment. Now, this is not limited to corporate America or whatever. It's just whatever environment there needs to be. Now, some people think you should not code switch, period. I have a friend, he's anti-code switching. I don't care where you are, what you're doing. You be you and let everybody else adjust. And actually, that's what Sia said the other day, which is true. But even in being you, there's different versions of you that has to represent different occasions, right? But when it comes to Black people, like that's the term we all know that we have to do in corporate America. But then it's another layer when you're Black and African, right? And you're trying to be understood. You're trying to make sure you understand the culture and speaking right or whatever have you. I want to start with cousin, well, excuse me, Elaine, cousin Elaine, whichever name. What is your experience with the term code switching, and do you code switch? Do you not? Why or why not?
Okay. So I would say when I first came to America, I would say no, because that's how I spoke. I had an accent and that was it. So it's either you understand what I'm saying or you don't. So I wasn't gonna switch on that. But now I do code switch. It depends on my audience. So if my audience is my African people, I'm gonna speak my broken English and I'm gonna just speak that way. But when I'm at work, I'm very professional and I watch how I speak because I want the audience to understand me, but I still do not lose the accent.
Mm-hmm.
The accent will always be there. So whenever I'm doing public speaking, few times people will come to me and be like, where are you from? And I like when they ask where I'm from, because then I would tell them I'm from Africa. Where? Liberia. How come you light skinned? We got light skinned Liberian, we got dark skinned Liberian, but I'm half African, I'm half Italian, Liberian, Italian. This is why my complexion is this way. And that's when you open the gate to conversation on about your culture and where you're from. So I do code switch it based on the audience and who I'm interacting with. And actually, to be fun, I was thinking about this code switching because my kids, they're like, Mom, why were you on the phone talking to work? You speak, you speak so proper, but when you're home, you got that African talking over there. I said, because when I come home, I gotta let it down, So again, I code switch.
Count on them to call you out, right?
That's
always,
right. That's
always. Right. Anyone else want to add to that? Actually, Mr. Copper, you had a good story as far as not code switching even to this day. Why is that?
Well, many African Liberians would tell you that they do that because I guess they may consider a survivor or whatever the situation may be, because they will go to the extreme of saying they're from the Virgin Island and whatever. But immigration plays a big part in people coming over, especially when you get a job and whatnot. But as for me, just like she's saying, I never did that much. So the thing here is, as long as you're speaking the proper English or whatever, they understand you. I think the reason why they don't understand, or they figure that we talk too fast.
Yes.
And they try to read our lips.
Yes.
I worked one time, I was saying something, and the lady kept saying, eh. I said, don't read my lips. Listen with your ears, you understand what I'm saying, Yeah, but sometimes people don't understand what we're saying. Like you say, when you with a proper audience, yes. Mm-hmm. But so when you incorporate and you have an accent and you're talking the right way, they will understand you. So sometimes we gotta just go a little slower instead of that fast way.
Yeah.
So then again, we're not patient. We think we're not doing it, but we talk very fast for people. But I tell them, I said, don't read my lips. Just listen to what I'm saying. You will understand. Right. So with that, it allows me to sometimes repeat my sentences, maybe 2 different ways, or my words used 2 different ways, just for them to understand. But for some people, that's what they have to do what they are doing, Right?
Yeah. Alex, Sia, did y'all have anything to add?
Just a quick comment. It is exhausting, right? I work in corporate America. It is exhausting. And when I say series is American English, right? Exhausting to speak series all day for 9 hours, 8, 9 hours. And then you come back, after you come home, it's like, just be yourself. Speak, like Sis Elaine said, speak for your audience when you are at work or giving a presentation. Speak so that your audience can understand you.
Mhm.
But also remember, you don't have to switch it all the way because it's not you. You know, and when you do, you can get lost.
So you know the story about the Binto in Liberia, right?
They left.
July, I think in July and December, the Bintos, they come here for two or 3 months, and then by the time when they get home, I mean they ask, I mean they try to change it all the way, you know, just to say that it's Binto. That's how come they were kind of named Binto because they're coming from America. So I mean, it can be exhausting. Then 1 or 2 months or so, they into the Liberian.
So, oh, go ahead, Alex.
I think sometimes that's where the confusion comes in about being yourself, because it's tricky. Like, so at what point are you not yourself? Okay, because code switching is simply communication, conversation. What's the essence of having a conversation if the person is not going to understand you? Okay, I'll be myself. I'll go to work. I'll go to a corporate meeting, management meeting. I'll be myself. Who am I? A Liberian, colloquial speaking. Just go flow with my colloquial, okay? But nobody's understanding what I'm saying. So you have to be able to code switch, and that's not taking away from who I am.
I agree.
So there's a great line of confusion here about the being yourself part. Like, at what point you're not yourself? Code switching, I think it's something that's automatic. It's not intentional. Okay, it's automatic with your conversation. It's automatic with your day-to-day language speaking, who you encounter. Okay, you stop the cab man, if it's a Liberian guy, boom, you ring it. You stop the next Uber driver, if it's an American guy, you ring it. Yep. You're still yourself.
Yeah.
But the code switching is just automatically takes its place.
I think it's a mix of two, right?
Right.
So like what Sia said and what you said, actually what all of you said, it's a mix. And it actually captures a question that came in about, you know, with the Liberian English is similar to Ebonics. And I practice Ebonics like it's normal English, right? But then I automatically switch if I'm giving a presentation at work. But there's times I may even slip that in, may even slip some Liberian English in that I have to explain. But with me being myself, it is what it is. I explain, I keep moving on. Sometimes people aren't comfortable or confident enough to do that. But to Sia's point, if you're just used to just speaking, not necessarily in proper English, but like fast and with your accent, to have to slow down and speak and use certain words and make sure that you pause, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting. It's like when you're eating food and your stomach want to open your mouth.
Speaking of English is like typing.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, some Liberians, they speak, for example, the Liberians back home, they're not walking around speaking colloquial all day. You have some dignified Liberians who give presentation and speak with their accent, people still understand them. That's what I meant by you don't have to change.
Yeah.
And when your accent.
Yeah, all of you have definitely made great points. I want to wrap up, but someone else asked another question I think is important. What I'll probably do is, and what I would encourage all of us to do on this line, and even those who are watching, if someone have questions and you have your thoughts on it as a African, or even have to be Liberian, respond to it. But I'm going to definitely try to do that as well. But back to the movie, someone asked, are there any movies out there that actually depicts what Africa truly looks like? So not like a Coming to America or a Black Panther, but like, and it can still be comedies or whatever, but just something that's more accurate. And I guess for me, I'll say you need to check out Nollywood, because a lot of different movies out there. And that's Nigeria. Nigeria produces the good quality, movies. So that's the thing they have over us. We have the jollof rice, they have the, the movie. But
go on Netflix. There's so many
Netflix.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
There's a 50 movie that's really good now. They made into a series.
Oh
yeah. And I will actually, the person that asked, there's a list that I have that I'll send, or I'll include it in the chat. But I would love to keep going on. But I'm coming up on 90 minutes. You guys, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for following directions. Thank you for being brief on your responses. I'm so proud of y'all. So pretty much, again, like I said from the last conversation, action item is be intentional. So if you want to reach anyone that's on this panel, like to ask further questions or whatever have you, or even just to get to know a little more, not for hooking up purposes, but just for networking, please, you can inbox me on social media or email info@asocialite, Light production.com. But thank you guys. Next week, we will be talking about a war story. I will be interviewing a family who was deep in the war, who came to this country with literally nothing and who are thriving. I'm really, really excited about that conversation. So that will be next Thursday at 7:30 as well. And just continue to follow Social Light Production. There's a lot of great things that are coming. And that's all I would say. But you guys have a good night. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
Thank
for
you very
having
much.
us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Let us be
Thank you.
patient in dealing with the Americans or the people that don't know who we are.
And vice versa.
Right.